2 weeks from tonight starts Christmas week, when Americans of all political persuasions gather. For Democrats who really care about politics, they'll start talking about presidential candidates. For unsaid but obvious reasons, suddenly, as in right now, Democrats who wouldn't talk to the national media want to be top of mind, like Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro on MSNBC tonight.
In terms of what we're dealing with every day with the Trump administration, making people's lives more difficult. I'm choosing to fight the battles today against the Trump administration and look forward in ways that hopefully can lift people up, make people's lives better. I think that's what we need to be focused on.
I have no idea what that answer meant, but it certainly sounded like it had been tested on multiple focus groups. If we need even more proof that Josh Shapiro is running for president, he just allowed incredible access to Tim Alberta of The Atlantic for a long and mostly positive profile, both to headlines, The Operator. If Pennsylvania governor has a superpower, it's an unflappability that allows him to stay cool and composed and to communicate precisely what he wants to communicate. The breathless anticipation of a presidential race. With us now, Jasmine Wright, White House correspondent for NOTUS, former Democratic Minnesota Congressman Dean Phillips, also challenged Joe Biden in the 2024 Democratic primary. Jasmine, I want to start with you. Is there, to your mind, a clear frontrunner in the Democratic race right now?
The very clear answer to that, Leland, is no, absolutely not. There is no clear front runner. I would even go to say that there is no clear universal message that Democrats are putting out into the conversation, into the zeitgeist right now. Something that I talk about with Democratic sources, though, particularly within the party, is that Democratic governors are going to be a part of whatever solution that happens when it comes to primary season in 2027. There are obviously a lot of Democrats that are expected to run. They're going to be battling their positions. But Democratic governors like Governor Beshear, possibly, definitely like Governor Shapiro, like Governor Pritzker, the kind of list goes on and on, potentially Governor Whitmer of Michigan, they're all going to be in that conversation. But right now, I think you're seeing them, as in that answer that you heard Governor Shapiro give, test out what their message could be leading up to that. But there is no consensus around messaging or candidate.
Yeah, Dean, I think about it when I listen to somebody like Josh Shapiro. He reminds me of Mitt Romney, Ron DeSantis, as does Gavin Newsom, these sort of very scripted, very message-tested, consultant-driven candidates. Where is the Bill Clinton? Where's the Barack Obama in the Democratic Party?
That's a good question, Leland. I think if there's one thing Democrats should really be learning from Donald Trump, it's how to be speak like everyday Americans. And people, I think, are sick and tired of consultants and political speak. I think Gavin Newsom is doing a better job than most trolling President Trump. But while he's crisscrossing the country over the last number of years, you have Governor Shapiro fixing bridges and improving Pennsylvania and making the case that his effort will be to ensure that Pennsylvania stays blue in 2026 and maybe picks up some seats. I think what Jasmine just mentioned, there is no plan, there's no contract with America. When I ran in 2018, it was all about healthcare, Leland. Healthcare,
right.
healthcare. And it was honest, because that's exactly what people were telling us. Now it's economic insecurity. First of all, it has been for a while. I don't hear a concise plan. I don't see a strategy.
Yeah, it's a great point.
And that's so, so when you ask who it's going to be, but
Juan Williams is out with a new piece. We're going to do a big segment on it tomorrow called Plan 2027, which is where is the Democrats' plan? It's exactly the point, Dean, you're making. Top 10 most electable Dems. Now, this is among 3,400 registered voters. Who is the most electable Democrat? Gavin Newsom, 85%. Mark Kelly, 63%. Tim Walz, 59%. Whatever those people are on, I would love to have some of. Cory Booker, 58%. Shapiro, 58%. These are people who they see as electable. We go all the way down the list. Kamala Harris is at the very bottom, no surprise. Jasmine, this is the question. How important is electability to Democratic primary voters? Because you can certainly imagine a lot of Democrats who would be very appealing to primary voters and completely unappealing to the voters you need to win the presidential election.
I mean, Leland, I think it's a question that we ask. I know certainly me as a political reporter ask every cycle. I think if you look back to the last real primary, which happened in 2020, Democrats answered that question by electing Joe Biden to be the Democratic candidate, overlooking perhaps Bernie Sanders or other folks who they may have felt weren't necessarily as electable as President Biden, who was closer to the center. And obviously, you see kind of how that played out over the last few years. I know Dean has a first row
He has a
first-hand
firsthand experience with
and
that.
so I think it's a constant question and a constant battle. But I think it's not just within the Democratic Party. I think that Republicans are consistently asking who is the most electable version of this too.
Yeah, that's fair. For those who forget, Dean Phillips was the only Democrat who told the truth about Joe Biden's health and said he shouldn't run, and said, I'm going to run against him, and then was bulldozed, steamrolled, tarred, feathered, and excommunicated from the Democratic Party for saying such blasphemy that turned out to be true. Dean, has anybody talked to you about running for president in 2028?
First of all, the words you just used were actually quite generous, I thought, relative to what happened to me. You know, yeah, Leland, it won't surprise you that, yes, some have, but it's not my intention. I think a good candidate will emerge. But to your fundamental question, no, I don't think Democratic voters prioritize electability. They prioritize affinity. And I think that's a little bit of the challenge Democrats are facing. In my own state of Minnesota, which has not elected a Republican to a statewide office since 2006, 20 years ago, Tim Pawlenty. Tim Walz is a very vulnerable governor in Minnesota, running for a third term, didn't show well during his vice presidential escapade, and now has the fraud issue. But when you have people like Mike Lindell, who are lining up to be the next nominee of the Republicans, I don't think either party has a monopoly on elevating electable candidates, and that's a fundamental problem. And by the way, one more thing too, Democratic and Republican primary voters tend to be the most engaged, passionate, ideological, far left, far right. Until Americans get out and vote in primaries, there will not be a fundamental change in electability.
Well, or until we have open primaries. You set up our next segment perfectly, because we're heading to Minnesota next. Dean Phillips, Jasmine Wright, thank you. Always more in War Notes, your chance for an inside look at the show every day. warnotes.com to subscribe. You will be smarter and far more interesting to friends and family over the Christmas holidays if you read what is in War Notes.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.